Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with, yep, you guessed it, another brand new Jurassic World Rebirth figure. No surprise because, again, the toy line has just officially launched here in the United States, so we are completely overloaded with so many figures that I'm trying to get up here on the channel for everyone. But this time we've got another Mosasaurus. We have the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus. I just recently reviewed the super colossal version, so it'll be pretty fun to check out this smaller, kind of articulated version. And you can see the packaging looks pretty cool. Definitely a really neat kind of like water look to the underside of the Mosasaurus. We also have a shot of the Mosasaurus as far as like the artwork goes down there in the bottom right hand corner, and the Jurassic World Rebirth logo to the left. We can see the figure looking pretty cool, as well as it's nice and out and open for everyone to see. And then here on the back you can also see a few other shots of the figure, and also the fact that we do have a Dilophosaurus included, a little mini Dilophosaurus, which we can see down there. Looks like it's probably the same one that we actually had way back when Mattel first acquired the license for Jurassic World with Fallen Kingdom. But let's go ahead, pop this box open, and check out this other version of the Mosasaurus. So here is our Mosasaurus now released from the packaging, and definitely looking really cool. You can also see how tiny our little Dilophosaurus is down there. But one of the first things that I noticed about this Mosasaurus is it has a little bit of a different look to the tail compared to the super colossal version. Not really all that different, but just a little bit different compared to that version. That's just kind of interesting to me. I'm not really sure why, but it is. We can see we have this nice dark tone for the face, kind of like a really dark grayish tone. Of course, it extends up into the top of the head. We can see the very impressive skin texture, honestly. It looks really good up on the top of the head. We can also see the nostrils and everything. We've got the yellow eye with a black pupil and a nice gloss coat to it, making it shine, look quite realistic, quite lifelike. We have the green picking up again, just like we had on the super colossal version. And for the most part, I would think that the coloration of this one is going to match quite nicely to the way we had seen it on that super colossal Mosasaurus. We do, of course, also have the light gray moving along the lower jaw. The skin texture, again, looking pretty good. As we open the mouth, we can see that we do have those very nice, very sharp-looking teeth, which is a massive plus on all of these newer Rebirth figures. And yes, we do have the teeth there, that extra row of teeth on the inside of the mouth are colored again with the same light yellowish tone that we have for the teeth moving through the rest of the mouth. It looks so good with these new teeth, like miles better than the older stuff. You can also see the very nicely textured tongue, but not just the tongue. I would say the gum line, everything looks pretty decent as far as the actual texturing goes on the inside of the mouth of this one. And of course the same for the upper side down here, looking really, really good. And we can also see the throat back there, which is nice for this one, because again, something that Mattel has really been quite enjoying lately is the ability for your dinosaurs, or in this case marine reptiles, to be able to swallow different figures, which is the entire reason for the Dilophosaurus being included. But you can see we have those very large, kind of bumpy osteoderms and stuff moving down along the back, something that we do see on the newer version of the Mosasaurus. We can also see the dark gray patterning down, and again the green starting to really overtake as the primary body color, and then again transitioning to the brown that follows down through the body a ways. We also have the light gray following along the underside here, almost like bordering on more of an off-white, but it's definitely a little bit of a light grayish tone. Lots of creases here on the underside as far as the skin texture goes. We can also see an articulated joint here in the midsection that does go left and right, which I'm pretty sure will be part of the action feature. We also have the scan code here for the Mosasaurus if you would like to add that to your collection. But as you move down into the flippers here of the Mosasaurus, not only do we see some nice texturing, but I also love these little kind of like slits and injuries and stuff, something that Mattel has been doing a lot as far as like their Chaos Theory line, but I like that they are incorporating that into some of the Rebirth figures as well. This one also has a little extra paintwork because we can see a brown, nice smooth transition to a brown as you lead out there toward the tip of that flipper, something that the super colossal version did not have. And of course, you can very clearly see we have articulation for those flippers as we can swivel them, but you can also see that they do go up and down, but they are super, super stiff right now, like really, really next level stiff for some reason. But they do work pretty nicely, just needs a little bit of force to actually move them. But we have some creasing to the skin as you lead down into the flipper, some more kind of bumpy skin texture as we lead back. Through the majority of the Mosasaurus, you still see that brown, but at this point that brown starts to transition to actually a bit of a darker brown as you lead out into the tail, and then that takes over the entire tail as you lead out. But I love the fact that as you lead out into this area, you can still see the green. Mattel doesn't do this too often. A lot of the time it's like a very abrupt transition as you lead out to a new color, whereas this time we actually do still see the green here as it fades away, leading back from the body. That's a really nice touch. Same deal with that light tone on the underside. You can see that very smoothly and naturally transition away as well. Really enjoy that aspect of the figure. You can obviously see that we have an articulated tail, but that is also part of the action feature, only goes left and right. And as you move down into the rear flipper, we can see the detail looks absolutely excellent on the rear flipper as well. And again, only the greenish tone moving down along the rear flipper here, no browns back here. But as you lead out into the tail, again, we do have a very dark brown leading out, and you can clearly see again how the tail looks on this one compared to the colossal version. Definitely well, we'll try to turn it around here. Definitely a little bit of a different look to the tail of this one compared to what we had seen on the super colossal version. And I think it looks really cool. I actually quite like the way that the tail looks on this one. But as you lead back, you see again all of the same sort of paintwork, same sculpt work and everything. Nothing really looks too different from one side to the other. Some injuries and stuff. Almost looks like in nearly the same place as far as that flipper goes as what we had seen on the first side. And then again, that really nice looking head sculpt as we move up. As far as the articulation goes, oh, also you can articulate the flipper back here, which is actually a whole lot smoother than the one we saw on the front. Clearly we can move it up and down, but it was very stiff. Boy, that's super stiff, but you can see it can go straight down or up pretty high, which is nice. I'd probably break my fingers though trying to do that entirely with that first one. Looks like we also, yep, we have a swivel area right here in the tail, which actually is like a pink tone in there. And then we have an action feature button right here, and that operates the jaw. So as you push that down, you can see the jaw snaps and, of course, would eat our little Dilophosaurus or whatever it is that you want the Mosasaurus to eat. And that's really cool because previously we didn't really have any Mosasaurus that actually had an action feature. But we also have this little area of the tail, which as you move it, moves the front half of the Mosasaurus. So now you can move it and have it actually strike and attack, which is pretty cool. Although you have to have it fairly level or it doesn't really work too well, because if we move it here to the side, I'm moving the tail, it's not working anymore. I think the front part is just too heavy. So as long as it's nice and level, you can get that nice turn, and then again keep pushing the button for the jaw snapping action feature. It does seem to work pretty decently. As far as the size goes on this Mosasaurus, it is definitely very similar in size to the older Mosasaurus that Mattel had released, but this one looks miles better, if you ask me, than the older versions. But for a length, you are looking at about, I'd say around 25 3/4 inches, roughly, or about the 65.5 centimeter range, somewhere in that vicinity. It was a little hard to get that measurement because the tail curves away from me, so it was not exact science, but that's a rough idea of the size. And then for a height, in the position it's currently in, because it is standing up on its flippers, you're looking at about 7 inches or a hair under 18 centimeters as far as that goes. We also do have the little mini Dilophosaurus, but I don't think we really need to go over this guy. Like, everything on this looks like the older mini, so there's nothing exciting or new about this one. Sculpt doesn't look any different. Even the paint application is the same that we had on the older ones, it looks like. So nothing super spectacular, but we can swallow it. So we have now swallowed our Dilophosaurus. You can see the tail sticking out there. And we're going to go ahead and try to blast our Dilophosaurus out of the mouth. There it goes. It went flying back out. So you can very clearly see that basically the Mosasaurus regurgitates our Dilophosaurus back out onto the table, which is quite humorous. And if you want an idea of how that actually works, you can see the inside of the mouth. There's like that little section right there. As I push the button, kind of pushes that forward, so it sort of pushes it out of the mouth and then kind of launches it out. But for a size comparison, There is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Mosasaurus, and you can see it does have a pretty good size to it, but it's not gigantic. However, it's definitely a large figure. When I say it's not gigantic, I mean it's not like super colossal size, but it is still quite large. And unfortunately, like I mentioned in my super colossal review, I do not have the older Mosasaurus from Mattel anymore. Like, I have it, but it's been locked away in a storage bin for a long time, and the door broke on it. I can't even get in there. I liked the figure back in the day, but it's not really one of my favorites from Mattel, so I didn't really see any reason in keeping it out in my collection room, so I packed that one away. But now I'm kind of kicking myself in the butt because I really want to have it here to compare with this one. But I can very clearly see, looking at it, that this one is roughly in the same size range as the older version, but it looks a lot better, especially as far as the proportions go and the tail length. This one looks miles better than the old one, but we'll just do a few random comparisons. Here, of course, is your standard Mattel Velociraptor, which is clearly a lot smaller. Also just moved its hand a little bit, so it might be haunted. We've also got the smaller Spinosaurus from the Spinosaurus Danger Pack here next to the Mosasaurus, which you can see. Obviously, the Mosasaurus is a lot larger. We've also got the tail thrashing Spinosaurus, and clearly you can see that it definitely rivals the size of the Mosasaurus. The Mosasaurus is definitely longer, but overall they're kind of similar in size. We've also got the lab lockdown Tyrannosaurus Rex, which you can clearly see again is a bit smaller than the Mosasaurus. And just in case you haven't acquired any other Rebirth figures from the newer toy line, here is one of the older Extreme Damage Tyrannosaurs next to the Mosasaurus, showing you again the Mosasaurus is a bit larger. And then the final, and maybe one of the most impressive comparisons, you can see the super colossal Mosasaurus next to this Bite and Blast version, which you very easily can see the super colossal version is a lot bigger. And if we look at the two from the side, you can again see that the size difference is quite massive, but you can also see again how similar they look as far as the actual paint application goes. And then I also just wanted to give you guys one glance again at the tails and show you how the two different tails do look a bit different from each other, which I find to be quite interesting. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Bite and Blast Mosasaurus is really nice, and if you ask me, I would say this is the best Mosasaurus that Mattel has released so far, this specific version. The super colossal version is spectacular in the grand scheme of things because it is so huge and so impressive looking. There is no doubt that it is a beast, but this version just looks so much more crisp as far as the actual sculpt work goes. I think it just generally looks a little bit nicer, a little bit higher quality, and it's also got so much fun playability to it. I really quite like the action features of this one. I, in general, enjoy having action features on a Mosasaurus. It features quite a bit of articulation as well, which makes it a bit nicer than the super colossal version, because I feel like it just has a little extra articulation. Of course, when it comes to like that midsection area, which is nice. The paintwork is super smooth through the entire body and has a fully painted look, which is a huge plus for this figure, and does feature even a little bit more paintwork than we saw on the super colossal version. And of course, on top of that, it also comes with a cute little mini Dilophosaurus, so how can you really go wrong? And it's also way better than the older Mosasaurus from Mattel, no question about that. But if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this right now. So check that link, pick it up if you want it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.